go sideways.
Yeah, something like that. Welcome back to the Project Gen X podcast. I am one of your hosts, Alan Smith, along with...
I'm the other guy, Big Dave.
In this episode, we are going to be talking about... I'm not even 100% sure what we're going to be talking about right now. I mean, we have an idea, don't get me wrong.
Let's give credit where credit's due.
Brian reached out to us and
Brian?
About doing sequels that were better than the original.
So we took your base idea, and we're not exactly sure where we're going to
Yeah, we're kind of... I had proposed this to Dave that we would do remakes, both movies and music that were better than the originals, and also do sequels that were better than the original just on the movie side. Well, Dave didn't do any of the movie stuff.
Well, let's do a little backstory here. Last week, I'm trying to remember who all I've told this, but...
Let's put it this way. Dave was suddenly faced with the fact that he's getting old.
I ended up in the hospital with what I thought was a heart attack.
Yep.
Luckily, it wasn't a heart attack. They did a heart catheter on me and found no blockages, and that the heart had good heart function. And I've been to the doctor again, and they're still trying to figure out what's going on.
Did confirm that you have a heart.
I do have a heart. Yeah.
Did they make sure you had a brain? That was the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you think you're gonna get off light just because you got hurt and because you're went to the hospital. You saw the text message between me and you and Corey.
I did. But I'm actually. We don't know what's wrong with me, but it's not the heart or the circulatory system.
I've been wondering what was wrong with you for over 25 years. So
I think we confirmed on one of the last podcasts what your problem is.
Well, we know what my problem is. I got no problem. I got no problems. Everybody else got problems. I don't know what you're about.
So I was in the process of working on it, and life had other plans for me.
Well, see, but you had all that free time to you work.
Yeah, a lot of free time in the hospital. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, so we are going to be talking about a lot of music and some movies. Is basically what it comes down to.
Which is basically every other podcast.
Pretty much. It's kind of what we do. It is definitely our brand. So, okay, do you want to start it off?
Well, I went with music, and because you're always complaining about it, I actually went. Of course, I'm still on paper. But I only went a page and a half.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I kept it to 10. I did a 10 list.
Well, you know what's funny? I actually have 11. I have 10. I have 10. I take that back.
I found an album that is probably going to blow that out of the water.
All right.
As I normally do. But I'm going to start with... I like Otis Redding.
Right.
I like Sam Cooke. I actually prefer Sam Cooke more than Otis
Fair
Redding.
Enough.
But I actually...
You go with his Respect?
Respect.
Yep.
The Aretha Franklin version of Respect is over and beyond.
It is
what
so
he
much
did.
better than his version.
Yeah.
It also, she took that song and made it into something completely different.
Yes.
Not just in like style and form, but actually transformed the meaning of the song on top of it all. And of course it's Aretha, and you get those golden pipes in a song, and it's just amazing. So
you got to go back and listen to some of her early stuff, especially the sessions down the Muscle Shoals stuff.
Right.
The Muscle Shoals stuff is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. So that's a good one. I left that one off my list because it's kind of. Now, don't get me wrong. I have some on mine that are very.
I'm probably going to have a lot of weird stuff tonight.
Yeah, I have some mainstream stuff here. In that same vein, I'm going with Ike and Tina Turner's version of "Proud Mary."
That's a good one.
Because that was a Creedence Clearwater Revival song to begin with, and their version's good, but it's nothing compared to Ike and Tina Turner's version.
Oh, it's a totally different style.
It is.
So.
I mean, it's funny to like even go back and listen to that CCR version.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Because it's one of those things where Ike and Tina own that song now.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So, what do you got next? This is going to be a short episode if this is all we're doing.
Well, maybe, but you ever heard of Richard Thompson?
Yep.
Del McCoury and his band did a cover of 52 Vincent Black Lightning.
Said James to Red Molly, my hat's off to you. It's a Vincent Black Lightning 1952. And I've seen you at the corners and cafes, it seems. Red hair and black leather, my favorite color scheme.
Okay.
And while I like Richard Thompson, I really, really like the Del McCoury version of that song.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that. I mean, I know both of those artists, but I'm not familiar with the songs.
Del McCoury is bluegrass.
Yeah, I know who Del McCoury. Yeah.
Bluegrass, and their version of the song is amazing.
Cool.
You know, you might want to drop samples right.
I will. I'm going to wind up finding. I'm going to wind up finding the stuff and dropping it in because you love making me do work. So,
well,
I got a lot of free time. I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and get my big one that I know is going to cause controversy because every time that I say it causes controversy somewhere.
Okay.
Of course, my mind is going completely blank because I didn't write down the artist names and they're like, oh, I'll remember that.
No, I wrote everything down.
I should have because obviously I'm getting older and can't remember this stuff.
Hey, at least you didn't almost have a heart attack.
That's true. Okay, the Joe Cocker version of "With a Little Help from My Friends" is
Beatles
far superior to the Beatles version.
Okay,
I mean, far superior.
Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song. I will try not to sing out of key. Yeah. Oh, baby, how you all I need is my brother.
Well, you're talking about a song that was off the Sgt. Pepper's album.
Right.
And
Ringo sang it.
And it wasn't necessarily meant to be the rocker that, no pun intended, that Joe Cocker made it.
Joe Cocker took that song and completely transformed it into something else. Jimmy
Absolutely.
Page plays a guitar on it. It's back when he was a session player.
Yep.
But it's just one of those things where it's like that is the definitive version of that song now. I mean, that there's... Now, the Wonder Years helped with that quite a bit, with that intro and everything. But it's still one of those things that, I'll be honest, I don't even like listening to the Beatles version of it at all.
You're not a Beatles fan,
I will,
though.
but it's also one of those things that I just don't like that version of it.
I get it.
Don't get me wrong. There are Beatles songs that I really, really like, but that one is not one of them. And then Joe Cocker went and said, "Hey, let me play with this a little bit," and then turned it into a masterpiece. So.
Okay, well, I'm going to plug your other thing that you do, the bedroom concerts. Yeah. I think you're going to have to do a month of Beatles songs that you actually like.
I could. It would be a lot of early Beatles. Honestly, it would be the quote unquote boy band Beatles more than it would be the acid rock Beatles. I mean,
like some of the later Beatles stuff.
Some of it's okay. Some of it.
Yeah.
I like some of it, but I really do like more of the, the Love Me Do and I Want to Hold Your Hand.
The 50s and 60s.
Yeah, the 60s.
Yeah.
The early, the very early stuff. Yeah. That's just me, though. So, anyway.
I've actually got two Neil Diamond songs on here. The first one I'm going to do, UB40 covered it.
Oh, no.
I love that version of Red, Red Wine. Mm-hmm. I do.
Okay.
I do. You can make fun of me all you want.
No, hey, it's
I think it's better than his.
Okay, that's fair.
Have you heard his version?
Yeah, it's not very good.
It's not very good.
I'll admit that, but I'm not a big fan of the UB40 version of it either. So I mean, it's that's just me personally. But
I like some of the stuff that UB40 did.
But you never heard them do any original stuff. Was the problem? They were always covering somebody's.
No, I'll be honest with you. I had a couple albums from UB40, and I did listen to some of the original stuff, and it wasn't bad.
Okay. Did you get in a fight at the concert?
I didn't go to the concert. I said I owned a couple CDs. I didn't say I went to the concert.
Hey, if you got in a fight in the concert, you might be a Supreme Court justice one day.
That would be a bad turn for the country, I'm afraid. Yeah.
What was your other Neil Diamond?
Covered by Urge Overkill.
That actually is...
Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon.
You'll be a woman soon. I love you so much, can't count all the ways I died for you, girl, and all they can say is he's not your kind. We'll never get tired of
that is a very, very good cover.
And I'll admit, I'm biased because I love Urge Overkill,
right.
And I've got pretty much everything they put out on CD. So this wasn't a hard choice for me at all.
You know, in that same vein, this is not one of mine. This is just, but since we're talking about Neil Diamond, do you know like what I think is a wonderful cover of Neil Diamond?
What?
It's Will Ferrell doing "Forever in Blue Jeans." Honestly, of course, it's more of it's an impression, but it's still one of those things where it's like, no, that's actually really good.
Okay, what do you got next?
My next one, a lot of people don't know that this is a cover, but it's Elvis Costello's cover of "What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding."
It's the only pain and hatred and misery. And each time I feel like this inside, there's one thing I want to know. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Oh, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Oh, I just had the original artist, and I can't think of it now.
Did a Christmas album with one of your favorite bands, Los Straitjackets.
Oh, I can't pull it.
Nick Lowe.
That's
Nick
right.
Lowe, yeah.
That's right.
And if you go back and listen to that Nick Lowe version, it's good, but it does not have the bombast that the Elvis Costello version has.
No, the Elvis Costello version is a good one.
It really is. And
shout out to Los Straitjackets, by the way. I love those guys.
Yeah, I think if you listen to that album, that Christmas album, it's really good. Like it was like, I remember, of course we're going to do a lot of sidetracks because that's what we do. When they released that album, I think, do you remember me like texting you and like, turn on the Tonight Show. Yeah. Why? Turn on the Tonight Show because they were performing. It was like,
and and I was used to, I had no idea they had gotten that big because I was used to watching them play down at Blue Sky Court, which then became the Phoenix, and then they basically lived there.
Right.
They opened up for Webb Wilder one night at 328 Performance Hall, and I have one of the Luchador masks that I bought at the show.
Nice. There should be more bands with luchador masks.
There really should be.
There really kind of should be. Just wearing masks in general.
Yeah, that's in style right now.
Yeah, I guess it was. There was a band that played around here. It was in Nashville. They were. I hesitate to call them a surf rock band, but they were in that style. It was all instrumental stuff. Yeah. They were called Daikachu or something like that, and they wore kabuki masks. And they played, and it was like I had never heard of them until I was at this show one night at Mercy Lounge, and they came out to play, and it was just kind of like, holy crap, these guys are good,
Nice.
And never said a word, nothing. They just played music. That's all they did.
Well, that was the great thing about Los Straitjackets is in between songs they would actually like talk and introduce the songs, but it was all in Spanish.
Oh, well, there you go. So.
Yeah, it was great.
All right, cool. What you got next?
It's a Leonard Cohen song.
Then Hallelujah.
But it's the Jeff Buckley cover.
Right. I've got that on my list also.
Yeah.
Well, it goes like this, the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah,
I mean,
again, Jeff Buckley owns that song now.
he really does. Leonard Cohen is an amazing artist in his own right and an amazing songwriter.
Yep.
But when you have a voice like Buckley's come in and do that to that song.
The thing about that song is that somewhere in the mid-2000s, and I think Grey's Anatomy had something to do with it, like somebody covered it on one of their soundtracks or something, and then all of a sudden you started seeing a ton of covers of the song. And then I remember, and I know it's a show that you don't care much about, but the OC.
No, I don't care.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so
it.
that came on the air in 2003, and that first season, the last episode, there's this big montage like of whatever that used that song, almost the entire song. Like they cut down some of it, but they did use like 3 minutes of that song.
Yeah,
and it's the Buckley version, And I was like, oh, and then you started just seeing it everywhere, here and there. And it's
the last Winter Olympics that was in Canada.
I don't remember when that was. It's been a while.
Well, Katie Lang came out and covered the song also in the opening ceremonies, and that was a really good cover also.
Yeah, so it's a good song. Now I got to say also in that, I'm not a huge fan of these guys, but I recognize their talent. Pentatonics.
Yeah.
Have you heard their version of it? It's actually really good.
I actually kind of like Pentatonics.
I kind of do.
Now, they've had lineup changes. It's not the same.
I don't know. This is an older version of it, I know. I think it was the original lineup that did it. So,
I don't think the guy that did the bass parts is with the group anymore. It's a different guy.
They're
now.
one of those groups that, like, I know they came off of what was it America's Got Talent or something?
No. It was
The Voice or something.
It was the Sing Off.
Was that what it was?
It was the Sing Off where they had all the a cappella bands. It was all a cappella.
It was one
bands.
of those shows. That
Nashville actually put a group on the show and,
Oh, yeah.
and did really well with it. I can't remember what the name of the group was. My wife is screaming at me through the mic right now.
I can't believe I don't
But
remember that.
we went and saw them at the Basement, and it was really good.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that you get there the way you get there. And Pentatonics is, they are a very talented group.
Yes.
I don't always like their music so much, but they are a very talented group, and I'll be fun. It was funny. Where I really started paying attention to them more than anything else is that they were on Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah. I remember
And
that, yeah.
it was funny because, like, my son, when he was about 2 years old, started watching these clips from Sesame Street on his iPad all the time. And they were doing the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they were doing it all a cappella. And they kept doing, like, all these different songs that from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, these guys are good. Like, this is good that they're doing all this stuff. So, anyway.
But my favorite cover they do, they actually do with Lindsey Sterling. You know who I'm talking about with Lindsay? She was on, it was either like the X Factor or something. She's the one that plays violin and dances at the same time.
Oh, yeah. I know who you're talking about. I do know who you're talking about.
The little cute redhead.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing is that, like, I know she's done songs with, like, a bunch of people. Like, she was Serena Carpenter and a bunch of different,
But they did a cover of Imagine Dragons, God, I had it.
Imagine Dragon, I have no idea. So, I mean, it's... They're not a group that I ever really got into. So
something about the chemicals. I don't know. I've lost it.
You're talking about music that's come out in the last decade. I have no clue. So it's all right. My next one. Okay. I have 2 Dylan songs.
I've got a Dylan song also. Is one of them covered by Jimi Hendrix?
Yes, All on the Watchtower.
Yes, absolutely.
There must be some kind of way out of here, said a joker to the thief.
Hendrix' version of All Along the Watchtower is the preeminent.
It is
All Along the Watchtower version. Unfortunately, it has been co-opted by Hollywood to represent that and Fortunate Son are the two songs that represent Vietnam.
Yeah.
They just those two songs play. Anytime you see a helicopter flying into the jungle, you're gonna hear All Along the Watchtower.
All Along the Watchtower, you're gonna hear a lot of CCR.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I get it. Okay, this is code for Vietnam. Okay,
yeah,
but that version of All Along the Watchtower is better than any version I've ever heard.
Well, even Dylan has said that.
Yeah, I mean that's
Bob Dylan was like, no, that's Jimmy's song now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, the other one that I have was a Byrds cover. They did now. The Byrds did a couple of Dylan songs. They did Mr. Tambourine Man.
Yeah,
but my favorite of the ones of the Dylan songs they did was My Back Pages.
Using ideas as my maps. We'll meet on edges soon, said I. Proudly pleaded brow. But I was so much older then. I'm younger than that now.
Oh, okay.
And that I think I've told this story before, but when a decade-ish ago when I was working for the Loveless Cafe here in Nashville, and they had at that time Music City Roots, the show was coming live from the barn out there, and so I worked that for like the first year that it was going on. You know? And one day I come into work, and you know you always hear people doing sound check and stuff, you know, and I come walking in the side, and I'm walking because it was in the springtime.
Yeah.
We had a outdoor patio. You had patios on both sides that we would have open up, you know, and I basically ran a snack bar over there for, you know, that kind of stuff. So I come in and I'm hearing music coming from inside and somebody doing sound check. I'm like, man, that's a Rickenbacker guitar. Like, there's no, like, that 12-string Rickenbacker, there's no denying what that sound is.
Oh, no.
Whatsoever, you know. And I'm like, wow. The opening refrain of My Back's Pages starts playing. And I was like, man, that sounds just like the Byrds version.
Yeah.
And then the dude started singing, and I was like, holy crap, that's Roger McGinn. And I did, dude. I made a beeline inside. And I was just like, holy crap. You know, it was not advertised to be on the show that night. It was one of those things, he was in town for a songwriter deal. Yeah. And they were like, hey, can you come over? And it was funny because he's sitting there and he's going through it and everything. And the whole place just stopped.
Yep.
Everybody that was working, like, you know, getting set up, just stopped. And when he got finished, everybody started applauding and everything. You know, I was just like, holy crap, that was
nice.
That was one of the great things about living and working in Nashville. Yes, a lot of times is that you have those little, like, I was not expecting this to happen tonight.
Well,
you know,
that's when I was that's kind of like when I was working for that other college that I worked for. They had a big basketball arena,
right?
And I was told, hey, I need you to go over and just sit and, you know, control the house lights while they do their rehearsals, and, you know, you can eat lunch while you're over there. It's no big deal. Little did I know it was the Nashville Symphony doing warm up and rehearsal for their show with Michael McDonald.
Oh,
so
nice.
I got paid to eat lunch and
watch Michael McDonald.
Watch Michael McDonald.
Did he do
yes.
Jama B?
Yes.
I swear to Christ, I want to burn this place to the ground.
Yes. They did the entire set.
Yeah.
And it was, even as a rehearsal, it was amazing. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Well, since you were talking about the Byrds, this is the one that's going to take my list from 10 to several. Back in the mid-90s, they came out with a tribute album to Graham Parsons.
Nice. Okay.
And
which song? Or are you just going to do the entire? Did they do Return the Grievous Angel?
They did.
Okay.
And if I remember right, it was Whiskey Town that actually did it, which was Ryan Adams' band before he became Ryan Adams.
Yeah, I know.
And that was a good one. But for me, She.
Okay.
She came from the land of the cotton, a land that was nearly forgotten by everyone.
which was Emmylou Harris and the Pretenders.
Right.
Was a great one. The second, I'm just going to run down the list because all of these are amazing. I love Graham Parsons.
Oh yeah, Graham Parsons, man.
But he did that super twangy. He was trying to be
it was that California country, is what it was. Before the Eagles really started doing that.
Probably my favorite three off of this album are Sin City, which was a duet with Beck and Emmylou Harris.
Okay, that's interesting. All right.
You've already heard a little bit of it.
Oh, is that what you were playing earlier? Yeah.
The Mavericks covered Hot Burrito #1.
Okay.
Which was a great cover. And you know how I feel about Wilco.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was a
Sunvolt fan, right?
But their cover of 100 Years From Now.
That makes perfect sense that Wilco would do a Graham Parsons song because they really want to be Graham Parsons in a lot of ways. Jeff Tweedy, you can tell.
Well, I mean, even the Rolling Stones loved Graham Parsons because Wild Horses.
Right.
Mick Jagger came out and said that he and Keith sat down and tried to write a Graham Parsons song, and that's what they wrote.
Yeah.
Trying to be a Graham Parsons.
That happens sometimes. Artists will just purposely try to write like someone else, and you get this weird, but that's kind of like
I wore out 2 CDs of this album.
Okay, cool.
I love this album.
Graham Parsons, I'll say this the same way that when we talked about like the Ghetto Boys.
Yeah.
Graham Parsons is one of those dudes that like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you need to. That's
you need to go back and read kind of the mythology on this guy.
The biggest thing about Graham Parsons most people remember is his manager stealing his body and taking it out to Joshua Tree and burning it because that was a pact that they had made, Now, a lot of that story has been embellished over the years.
Or if it even
really happened, I know. So it's kind of one of those, there's this whole mythos around Graham Parsons.
Yeah.
More than his death, than anything.
He was a huge nudie fan. He had I don't know how many different nudie suits.
Yep.
So there's a connection.
And for those of you that don't know,
that
Nudies is a shop here in Nashville that sell like these specialized.
If you've ever seen the Grand Ole Opry,
pretty much the rhinestone. Like you're talking about.
Porter Wagner.
Porter Wagner, yes.
Porter Wagner.
Those are nudie. Yeah, those are nudie suits.
And the only one who had more gaudy nudie suits than him was Graham Parsons.
Chris Isaak might be up there.
Well, you might be right. You might be right.
Chris Isaak really loves those things as well.
I mean, they're so gaudy. They're cool.
Yeah. And I didn't put it on my list because I don't think anybody can do a better job than Roy Orbison, but. Chris Isaak did Only the Lonely.
Yeah.
I think it was his first. I can't remember if it was. No, it was on the Baja Sessions, and it's one of those things. It's a really good cover, but it's still no Roy Orbison. Right. that's the thing with Roy Orbison. Again, if you never listened to much of Roy Orbison, go listen to Roy Orbison because the dude. He was just an amazing singer and songwriter. So
your Chris Isaak thing brought up another one that I should have thought of.
That's okay. Let me go on since you just did 12 of them.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to pull one out from under you because I know I am.
Okay.
Johnny Cash's version of "Hurt."
Don't have it on here.
Really.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the...
Because I knew you would cover it.
That Trent Reznor said that song belongs to Johnny Cash now.
Yeah.
After his, he had put his... And it was also one of those things of, especially... along with the music video that they made for that video or for that song, Johnny being at the end of his life.
Yeah.
And it really, and it's one of those things.
Well, it was shot, the whole thing was shot at the old House of Cash Museum in Hendersonville.
Completely in disrepair and was not open to the public and had been condemned and all that kind of stuff. And so it's one of those things that you just see this man who was larger than life that is now at the end, and it's very much, and the song itself, it's this, you can hear the weather in his voice of he's older now and that kind of stuff, and it's just one of those things of like, and that whole, like, especially at the end, that whole, you can have it all, my empire of dirt, and that it's just like, this is...
Which he changed the lyric from the Trenton Reznor.
From the second verse, he changed that lyric, but it's still one of those things where it's like... It just made perfect sense for someone who was at the end. Yeah. And, but that... When Johnny Cash died in 2003, the Nine Inch Nails website was a black for 24 hours. Yeah, just completely. I mean, that was a thing that Trent Reznor was like, no, Johnny. Yeah, that's a. And there were a lot of tributes to him when he died. Of people that you wouldn't necessarily. Snoop Dogg was a big one. No, he was a huge Johnny Cash fan. Johnny
Cash influenced everybody.
I know, and that's So I mean, but that's it literally. Johnny Cash influenced everybody from Elvis on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got the famous picture where it's Johnny
Million Dollar Quartet.
It's him and Johnny and
Jerry Lee Lewis, and the guy that sang Blue Suede Shoes. Damn it, I can't believe that.
Over from Jackson, Tennessee. I can't believe I'm forgetting it. Carl Perkins.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. They called him the $1 Million Quartet. Yeah, and it's again one of those things where it's you can't go wrong with with this stuff. But it was one of those things. I mean, it's Johnny Cash had an influence on everybody after him, whether they knew it or not. Sometimes. So.
Well, you were talking about Chris Isaac and him doing covers of Roy Orbison. Well, Corey Taylor of Slipknot has another band called Stone Sour.
Right.
And they've actually done a bunch of acoustic covers of other songs, and one of them they did was Wicked Game.
The world was on fire and no one could save me but you. Strange what desire will make foolish people do. And I never dreamed that I'd need somebody like you.
And that's actually, he does a great cover of that song.
There's, when you say that, because again, there's been several people who have covered that song, but there's this artist, I'd never heard of her before. Her name's Courtney J.
Okay.
Jaye is the last name. And she does Wicked Game, and I love that version of it.
Okay.
I mean, and I will drop it in here because but it's...
Drop them both in here.
I will. I'll drop those because it's one of those things that like...
I never dreamed that I'd meet somebody like you. I never dreamed that I'd lose somebody like you. No, I don't wanna fall in love. It's only gonna break your heart. No, I don't wanna fall in love with you.
I've played that for other people over the years of like, I found this cover, and people are like, oh yeah, okay, fine, whatever. And then they listen to it, they're like, holy crap, that's good. Yeah. It's like, yes.
Yeah. So what else you got?
Okay, there's going to be a certain set of people that's going to be upset with me when I say this again, because I'm going after another kind of sacred cow.
Okay.
Counting Crows did a cover of Friend of the Devil by the Grateful Dead that is far superior to the original version.
Ran into the devil, and he loaned me 20 bills. I spent the night in Utah in a cave up in the hills. Sit down running, but I take my time. A friend of the devil is a friend of mine. If I get home before daylight, just might get some sleep tonight.
I mean, far superior to the original version.
I know both versions.
Mm-hmm.
I like them both individually.
Okay.
I don't really put one over the other because they're so different.
They are very
other.
different. The Counting Crows slowed it down quite a bit. There's a lot of piano on it.
Yeah.
And they really made it... what's the word I'm looking at? It's a lot more down home.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way. It really does have more of a down home vibe to it.
And a little bit more forlorn than the
absolutely.
Grateful Dead.
Which Counting Crows knows how to make everything sound more forlorn.
Yeah.
Now, they also did a really shitty version of
Put Up a Parking Lot.
Yeah.
I hate that entire album, actually.
That album is not bad. That song is terrible.
that song completely turned me off of that entire...
Yeah, what is that song? It's called...
I'm going to look it up. That's just ridiculous.
Because it's not called Pay Paradise or it's an old Joni Mitchell song.
It's Joni Mitchell.
Anyway,
blah blah blah.
It's another one of those we should have had in our songs you think are called one thing, but they're have a completely different title.
Counting Crows. Let's see here. It was on one of those. It was on Desert Life.
No, it was on Hard Candy.
It was on Hard Candy.
Yeah, it was a bonus track, and then they also had a version with Vanessa Carlton. But yeah, no,
Big Yellow Taxi.
Big Yellow Taxi. That's what it was.
No, I heard that song because that was like one of the first singles out on that one.
Right.
And I literally,
which was actually it wasn't one of the first singles out.
It was like the first or the second.
Because they released American Girls, and then they released that one. Which I guess it was the second one, and it was like, and the thing is the version that's on the album doesn't have Vanessa Carlton on it. They went back and put her in later.
I hated both of them.
I know it's not.
I heard this song and I was like, "There's no way I'm paying good money for this album."
I don't like that song to begin with.
No.
I'm not now. We're talking Joni Mitchell though.
Yeah,
someone who did do a good version of one of her songs was Crosby, Stills and Nash with Woodstock.
Yeah.
Their version of Woodstock is far superior to her versions. Now, I know that if Joni Mitchell was sitting here, she'd be pissed off about that because she doesn't think that anything she does is terrible, and and the fact that we said that an all male group did something better than she did would be even like just heinous. But I'm sorry, it's true.
It is what it is.
I know, but that's
all right. Well,
that's, you're getting your hippy dippy crap there. So anyway,
people are probably going to be a little mad at me on this one.
Okay,
it's a Dolly Parton cover.
Is it
Jolene?
Oh, okay, the one with
Rhonda Vincent.
Yeah.
Rhonda Vincent, another bluegrass.
Right.
I really like her version of Jolene better than I do Dolly Parton's. And I'm going to get a lot of hate over that.
I have a hard time saying anyone does a better version of anything than Dolly Parton, except I do have to give Whitney Houston some credit for her version of I Will Always Love You.
Okay.
Because she brought a new dynamic to it.
Yeah.
That Dolly didn't have.
No, she
to
did.
begin with.
But for me, I'm a Rhonda Vincent fan.
I got you.
I think she does a better job of doing Jolene than Rhonda Vincent and I think it's the Thunder.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I have one more on my list.
I've got 3.
Okay, well, go ahead.
Gary Jules and Michael Andrews.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tears for Fears.
Which song?
Donnie Darko soundtrack.
Oh,
Mad World.
Mad World.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright and early for the daily races, going nowhere, going nowhere.
I love this version. I like Tears for Fears, but this is the version.
I'll admit I
like
this version better than the original.
Yeah. But you're probably not a Tears for Fears fan.
I really do like Tears for Fears. I do like this version better than the original, but it's got that Donnie Darko stink on it. And I just can't.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That is one of those movies. Obviously, it's a generational thing. Millennials love that movie for some reason.
Actually, I like that movie.
Okay. Well, you're a weirdo anyway. But it's.
I'm not denying it. I'm not denying it.
I have only seen the movie once. That's all I needed to see. Because I just sat there, and it wasn't that it was so confusing. It wasn't. It was just like, this is just not good.
Yeah.
It just did not appeal to me whatsoever. And then it just became this huge Donnie Darko. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. You know?
I will admit some people have overhyped the movie.
You think?
No, they have. They have. But
it's kind of like Garden State. Oh, God.
I actually did not enjoy that movie.
I hated that movie, man. That.
But
there is so much to make fun of in Garden State. It's not even. I mean,
if you could actually pull some of the overhype out of Donnie Darko and just enjoy the movie for what it is, it's a good movie.
Now, I'll tell you what's really cool about that version of Mad World.
Okay.
Do you remember the commercial for the? I think it was the first. I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one of Gears of War.
Yes.
That used that song, the Mad World in there. And it was such a haunting, because there's that scene where the Marine's standing there, and then all of a sudden, like, the big monster comes out of the darkness behind it. It's just like, oh, this is creepy. I always thought that was a great use of that song.
Oh, yeah.
But no, that's a good one. I'm glad. That's a good one. That I have another one from that era also, that was on a soundtrack. Again, I'm going back to the OC because I love the OC. And the thing is and you really ought to go back and listen to those soundtracks.
Okay.
For that, there's like 4 volumes of it or something like that, because there's some really good music on there.
Okay.
There's a lot of indie stuff,
I'll
and
give
everything.
you that. That's a possibility.
One of the things that came off of that was a cover of the Alphaville song "Forever Young" that was done by Youth Group.
Let's dance in style, let's dance for a while. Heaven can wait, we're only watching the skies. Hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. Are you gonna drop a bomb or not? Forever young, I wanna be forever young. Do you really wanna live forever? Forever.
Oh, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. That is a good song.
This song is amazing. Like, the Alphaville version is good, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But their version of it, they really made it melancholy. I mean, it's one of those songs that just like grab you and just like won't let go,
Okay.
But yeah, that Forever Young is such a good cover. There's another really good cover, and I won't say that was on that same soundtrack. It's not better than the original, but it's up there.
Okay.
It's Not a Surf.
I like Not a Surf.
I do too, but they did a cover of If You Leave by Orchestra Maneuvers in the Dark.
Oh, yeah.
That is very indie rock. It's got this droning bass line, and it's slowed down, that is just haunting.
Yeah.
I mean, just that song was always that.
But how can you not like ELO?
ELO?
Oh, no, sorry. No, I'm
OMD.
Wow. Yeah, sorry.
OMD,
my complete
no, I
brain
got
fart.
Hey,
yeah.
you get it. ELO, OMD.
Actually, what did is I was on my lunch.
What was the How Bizarre? That was that was another one of those 3 letters.
I know what did it to me
Yeah.
is when I was supposed to be eating lunch today, I watched some Traveling Wilburys and some ELO stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Jeff Lynne stuff.
Yeah,
it's
Jeff
like,
Lynne. Where Danny Harrison was, up playing with Jeff Lynne.
Yeah. He looks so much like his dad.
He sounds so much like his dad.
I mean, it's scary to look at him.
Yeah.
They're just like, man, no, that's George Harrison right there.
Yeah.
That is a young George Harrison. Yeah. But yeah, that. Oh, you know what? I actually do have one more in here. So go ahead. But yeah, go check out those.
I got 2.
Okay.
You know who the Crickets are?
Yep. Buddy Holly.
Yep.
That's his backing band. Yeah.
Right. The Clash covered this song.
Which one?
I Fought the Law.
Breaking rocks in a hot sun. I fought the law and the law won. I fought the law and the law won. I needed money.
That was a cricket song.
It was a cricket
Is that a
song.
cricket song?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I know what you're talking about. The Clash version of that song.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now because
We're really getting more into this was a good cover rather than better than the originals.
Yeah, we are. No, I'm pretty sure that was.
Was it the Crickets?
I think it was the Crickets.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Breaking rocks in the hot sun, I brought the law.
Yeah,
the Clash. Yeah,
I like the Clash.
You know how I feel about the Clash.
I like the Clash.
I know. I like for the most part. I like my punk rock to be American. So it's don't get me wrong. There's a few British punk bands that I like.
Like who?
Now you put me on the spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Buzzcocks were British, aren't they?
You better check that one
I
out.
think they are. I really like. I don't know.
Buzzcocks are a good one though.
Yeah.
While you're looking that up, I've got my. I'm gonna just go ahead and do my last one.
Okay, that's fine because I got one more.
It's a cover of the Velvet Underground by the Cowboy Junkies.
Cowboy Junkies doing
Yep.
Sweet Jane. Yeah,
I
okay,
love-
that is a good.
Anyone's ever had a heart wouldn't turn around and break it. And anyone who's ever played a part wouldn't turn around and hate it. Sweet Jane, sweet Jane.
I love Cowboy Junkies. They do a good cover of "Me and the Devil Blues" off
Yeah.
the Pump Up the Soundtrack. Soundtrack.
Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume soundtrack. Also.
Yes, they are an English band.
There you go.
Yeah, so I got one. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Sex Pistols, but we've talked about my. Although I will say that I gained a little bit of respect for Johnny Rotten in the last 6 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because and not to get political, but he came out and said the only punk rock thing to do is to vote for Donald Trump for president. It's like that is a very punk rock thing to do, actually. So it's
no.
and I'm not endorsing Trump here. I'm just saying that I was like, no, he was a disruptor. It makes sense. You know,
That's hysterical.
But the Cowboy Junkies version of Sweet Jane is one of those songs. Okay, the Velvet Underground is one of those bands that every few years I decide, okay,
I'm going to give them a shot.
I'm going to listen to these guys and try to figure out what it is that everybody loves about them.
Yeah.
And I'll get a certain amount of, like, if you say on a scale from one to this is the greatest band ever, I get somewhere in the middle of, I see it, but I don't feel it.
There's talent there.
There is.
They wrote some good songs.
They did.
They sound better when other people do them.
Yes. There's a lot of truth in that. And it's the whole thing like with Lou Reed, okay?
Yeah.
I like Lou Reed's solo stuff better than I like the stuff that's
I can agree with
okay? That. Sweet Jane, though, is one of those songs that, like, it seems like ever since they recorded that song, whether it's an actual Velvet Underground recording of it, or it's a Lou Reed recording of it, or it's a Cowboy Junkies recording, or any number of anybody else, finds its way back into the social consciousness every few years in some shape, way, or form.
And now it's our fault because we brought it back up.
Yeah,
actually, it's my fault.
Actually, but it's one of those things. Like, I don't know. It's just it's one of those songs that I want to figure out what's so great about it, but I can't. I just can't.
Listen to the Cowboy Junkies version of it.
Even their version is,
I'm sorry, I love the Cowboy Junkies.
Now, the best thing that happened with that was it was in Natural Born Killers.
Yeah.
That was where it really got its push, Now, I remember the song being out prior to that.
Yeah.
But that whenever it was featured in, when Trent Reznor featured it on the soundtrack for Natural Born Killers, because he put that entire soundtrack together and did the score for it and everything. It was like, no, this makes perfect sense. But personally, if I'm going to go with a Velvet Underground song, I'm probably going to go with Heroin. Now, I've never heard a really good cover of that song, because if you go back and listen to that song, it is so out of sync, and I mean that as in, the drums speed up and slow down, not on purpose. They're just beating up and slowing down, and the guitar's slightly out at some point, and the bass is a little behind the beat.
There's probably a reason for all of that,
I'm sure.
and it's probably the title of the song.
Yeah, I know, and it's one of those things. It's such a chaotic, song that I'm like, okay, I get it. But I guess that's enough about the Velvet. It's Penn Jillette. Okay, Penn and Teller. I used to listen to his podcast, and he was always, he was friends with Lou Reed.
Yeah.
And, of course, Lou Reed died a few years ago, and, he did a wonderful episode kind of eulogizing him and just talking about his friendship with him, that kind of stuff. And he's always talked about how much he loved the Velvet Underground, and all that kind of stuff. And I remember, listening to that episode and then going and, okay, I'm going to go listen to the Velvet Underground. I'm going to go listen to some Lou Reed. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, I remember after a couple of hours of that, because of him talking so glowing about this, is like I could feel his passion for it, and that kind of stuff. I couldn't find it myself, and I kept thinking to myself, it's like, I wish that I could hear them the way he hears them. And I think that's what a lot of people like. There have been plenty of bands that I know people who are just huge fans of. That I cannot. It just does not translate for me.
My wife has a band, and actually her friend Tanya introduced her to it, and they both just love this band. And I'll try to listen to one of the CDs when we'll be on a road trip or something. She's like, "Oh, you got to listen to this," and I can't do it. I can't find my passion for it like they have, and I know it drives her crazy.
A band like that for me is Death Cab for Cutie. Like,
they got some good songs,
but it's one of those things that I cannot find what it is that people love about them so much. It's like I can catch a part of it, a piece of it every once in a while. But I never can get the full. Oh, this is it.
It was like the obsession over was it Yellow Card?
Yeah.
People loved that band, and I was just like, I don't get it.
Again, it's a couple of Gen Xers talking about millennial music here.
No, I mean,
that was the whole thing with
that's not even fair. I like a lot of the music. I like quite a bit of millennial music that came out.
What's the Connor Oberst band? Was it that everybody went nuts over back 15-ish years ago? And
Where's your Magic Witch Box?
It's here, so I don't even want to look it up but it's just one of those. It wasn't the Postal Service. It was
which they've got a bunch of good songs.
It's not Snow Patrol. It's which I like Snow Patrol.
They got some good stuff.
They've got some good stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where you get some bands like that, and I'm just like, I don't get it. Somebody I don't get. I fully admit that she's got a good voice, but I just do not get the music.
Okay.
Adele.
Really?
No. I don't get it. It does nothing for me whatsoever.
That album that she put out that had Hello on it.
Yeah.
That thing sonically is a headphone album.
Okay.
And it's amazing sonically. And I do enjoy the music and all that.
Okay.
Now I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Where you probably, there's some of it I'm like, I don't get, but sonically,
now, like I said,
the thing is amazing.
She's got a great voice.
Yeah.
I just don't like her music, is what it comes down to. And I'm like that with,
and that's
I'm
the
that
thing.
guy with a lot of groups.
Well, that's
and,
the great thing about
stuff,
music
so
is it's all subjective.
Yeah.
What you love, somebody else is probably going to hate.
More than likely.
So. The other way around.
Okay, so now that we've gone on a serious tangent about stuff that has nothing to do with this, but
if you're new to the show, welcome to the show.
Yeah, exactly. My last one.
Yeah.
and this is not light because it's really, really tough to overshadow the original artist.
You gonna get hate on this one?
No, but I think this one has universally been accepted. But it's really tough to overshadow Prince.
Okay.
And that would be Sinead O'Connor.
Well,
nothing compares to you.
Well,
It's been 7 hours and 15 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away.
basically,
he recorded it.
Yeah.
Before.
But he handed it to her and said, you should do this song.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that, like, if you go and listen to his version of it and then you listen to her version of it, you can tell which one's the superior version.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It's hers.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it is tough.
The pain that she puts into that.
I mean, it is tough to overshadow Prince, especially with his own music. And yeah, she did it. So
yeah.
Is there anything else that we're missing here? All right, since we've got a little bit of time, we're going to get into some movies here.
Okay.
I only have one remake on here that I think is better than the original.
Okay.
And it's the remake of Dawn of the Dead that Zack.
Really?
What's his name? Zack
Snyder
did back in the early mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I like it better than the original Romero. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that the original movie came out in the mid 70s and it's got that mid 70s feel.
That's what I actually like about
that kind
it.
Of stuff. This being an updated version, plus they also had the fast zombies, and they made them a little more menacing.
Well, yeah.
Some of that, let's be honest, some of the stuff that happens in the original Dawn of the Dead is kind of hokey.
Well, it was the 70s.
I know, but this one took it a little more seriously of like, hey, this is the real shit we got to deal with, in this universe. And so that's the only remake that I have. Now, I have a handful of
sequels
that I think are better than the originals.
I'll start.
Okay. You're going to do it.
Addams Family Values.
Yes, that is a good one that I cannot believe I didn't write on down here because we've talked about that before, and it's true.
It's true.
Addams Family Values is better than the Addams Family, and that is there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that whatsoever. I do not know how they managed to do that either.
Such a great cast.
It really, it's all the original people. You go back, plus you add Joan Cusack into the whole thing. And that movie is so good. Plus, you throw it in Christine Baranski is in it, and I can't remember the other dude's name who was on Ally McBeal, the other camp counselor. But it's one of those things where it is such a good
sequel.
Yes, better than the original. And like I said, that Addams Family's movie is good.
Yeah.
This goes from good to great.
Absolutely.
And then it went all downhill after that.
It did.
They did that third one, what was it, Family Reunion or whatever it was, and they completely recast everybody, and it just straight to video.
I didn't watch the third one because they did recast everybody.
I know. That was a good. I can't believe I didn't have that one on here because that should have been at the very top of my list.
Even I can still surprise you. Look at there.
I put American Pie 2 on here.
I can see that.
The first movie is really good. The second movie actually shows growth in the characters.
Yes.
Of them, like, okay, it's a year later, they've gone to college now, they've learned a lot more about life and this and that, and now they're going to go spend the summer together to,
beach house.
Yeah, type stuff. They have to get jobs because they can't afford it.
Everybody has learned more about
except
themselves.
For Stifler. Except for Stifler, because Stifler is always Stifler. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And if you want to know more about that, go back and listen to our Clips episode and Dave talking about it.
You have to do that to me.
Uh-huh.
That's not very nice.
Yeah, that's what I do. But American Pie 2 is one of those rare, like, and especially for that genre.
Yeah.
You know, you look at that first American Pie movie, and it's a teen TNA comedy. You know, that they were trying to bring a lot of that gross out, and that real, like, kind of over the top 80s vibe back into it. But then you get to the second movie, and it's like, no, this movie's got a lot of heart to it. This is you see these characters progressing. You know, and American Wedding is not a bad movie either. It's lesser than the first two. Now, American Reunion is maybe on par with the first one. Like, really, pretty good especially for a sequel that was over 7 or 8 years later or whatever, and kind of recatching back up with these characters again and stuff. So
that's the one where the girl he used to babysit.
The babysitter, yeah.
Stepler, what are you doing in here?
Yeah, I know.
Come on, man, you gotta let me see.
Yeah, I know. You got another one?
Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. I did not put that one on mine. I am going with the Randy theory from Scream 2 on this one. Of it's part of a trilogy, so therefore it's not really a sequel. It was an over... and also the fact, we've talked about this before, I think that Star Wars is a better movie, so that's...
I mean, the only thing we really agree on this is the Clerks theory, where the third one was just a bunch of Muppets.
Exactly, it's like, nothing. I mean, no, Empire is good. Don't get me wrong.
I love Empire.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's good, but as I have said before, given the opportunity, I will watch I will watch Star Wars before I watch Empire, and especially Jedi. Okay. but no, I get it. All agreed upon. That's one of those things, people kind of agreed upon. Oh yeah, it's a better movie,
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about Clerks, I'm going with Clerks 2.
Clerks 2 is amazing.
Clerks is a great movie because it captured a moment in time for Generation X.
Yeah.
Clerks 2 is a better movie because it captures Gen X's midlife crisis.
Yep.
And it definitely, Donkey Show aside, it's still one of those things where it's like you watch that movie and there is so much heart in that movie. Where
the whole thing is summed up really well in the car on the way back. And
yes, and that's one of my favorite scenes in a movie ever. I've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Whenever Dante asked Randall, like, why do you want to go to the go-karts when you're an adult, you can drive, he's like, because it reminds me of a better time in life.
Yep.
And what is it he says? It's something about, he's like, some days he's like I just feel like the world has passed us by. Type. And I get that. I've felt that way. And especially around the time that movie came out, I was feeling that pretty hard.
I think we both were.
Again, it was one of those things. It was capturing Gen X's midlife crisis that was happening a lot sooner than most people have their midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Most people wait until they're like, in their 50s or something. We were having it in our early 30s.
Yep.
I have many times said there's not going to be a traditional midlife crisis for me because I've already had mine. It's over now. We're good. So,
yeah.
But yeah, Clerks 2. I mean, I know some people might think that's blasphemy, but it's true.
No, so, I can't disagree with you. I can't.
What you got?
I don't know that I've got much else. Like I said, I didn't.
No, go ahead and say what you were going to say. What you said earlier.
Oh, you want me to? Okay.
Yeah, so you can really piss some people off.
I didn't say they were better than the original. What I said was, I love the Godfather movie.
Okay.
I like the third one. I don't think the second one was as good as the other two.
All right.
I like the third one. People bag on the third Godfather movie, but I really like the third one. I like the symbolism between the opera that Tony's son was in and what happens actually on the steps at the end. I just really like the third one. Okay. I think the second one is cool because it's doing the back and forth between
showing the showing the backstory.
But I think the first and the third are the better of the trilogy.
That is again, I have no dog in this hunt because I don't really care for those. And I have not seen the third one, but I didn't really care much for either of. I watched the first two because it's like I'd never seen them before, so I went and rented them back when there were still video stores, and I watched both of them. I was like, they're all right. You know,
I'll make you sit down and watch a third one. I think you'll agree with me.
Probably not, because I didn't really care much for the first two. So, but.
I'm not even getting angry over it because
I've already, I know, but the thing is, because there's, first off, it's me saying that I don't really care for the Godfather movies usually sets people off.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the Godfather 3 just celebrated its 30th anniversary. And even 30 years later, people are still bagging on that film about being terrible.
I'm going to say they're wrong.
So
they're absolutely wrong.
Hey, it's all opinion. We all have one,
and theirs is wrong.
There you go. Here's one you might not see coming.
Okay.
Hellboy 2, The Golden Army.
No, I could totally see that.
That one, I thought that first Hellboy movie was good.
I own it.
Not great, but good.
Yes.
And when they announced they were making a second one, I'm like, all right, I like that first one well enough. And I actually went to the theater to see that. I didn't get to see the first one in the theater. I went to the theater to see the second one. I was like, this is great.
Yeah.
I love this. I hope they make a third one. They never did.
Well,
it sucked because it didn't do well at the theater. And so
it was already kind of a cult film anyway.
Right.
And then they released the second one. They got a bigger budget for it and did a really good job with it. And I was like, oh, maybe Del Toro will do a third one.
And he kept saying he wanted to. Yeah. He had a script ready and everything, and then it just never materialized.
They redid it.
Yeah. I haven't seen the remake.
So. I haven't seen the remake because, one, I really like the first one, and two, I really like the Netflix show Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And they got
the guy that plays plays Harper. I know he.
I don't want to have a taint on him when Stranger Things comes back,
enough.
Which is what I'm afraid will happen.
I just thought of a remake that I actually like better than the first one.
Okay.
That might be heresy to some people. Okay. As well. It's another horror movie.
Okay.
Friday the 13th.
I have not seen the remake.
The remake is really good because basically what it does is it takes the first three movies and puts them all together. And it kind of gives you a little more of...
That kind of hurts me a little bit.
Why is Jason here and doing what he's doing? Yeah.
That actually hurts me a little bit because... I've talked about this in a previous show. Friday the 13th Part 3 was actually my first horror movie. Right. Well, technically it was Creepshow. The second one was Friday the 13th Part 3. So Part 3 has a special place.
I get it.
In my machete-pierced heart.
Well, like I said, but they basically took the first three and they put them together. Which makes sense rather than... Any especially the early films in that series.
Yeah.
The fact that, and also the timeline's a little weird. Like the second one takes place like a year after the first one, but then the third one takes place like the next day or something. Like it's some weird So basically taking all those and putting them together and saying, okay, this is where it started. This is where Mrs. Voorhees, all this stuff happened, and then he was basically let loose on the world at this point, and then we get to this point, and then they start telling their story. So basically they take those first three movies and kind of condense it down into the first half hour of the movie and then start telling their story out beyond that. And it also makes a little more sense the way that they did with Jason of why he's doing what he's doing, rather than...
Maybe I need to go back
rather
and watch
than,
it
and whereas, like... When Rob Zombie remade Halloween, it's not a bad remake, but
I like the Rob Zombie.
I like it too. Don't get me wrong, I like it too. But it's still one of those things where they went a little too far into the explanation of why Michael Myers acts the way he does.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
In this one, giving Jason Voorhees, basically, he wants to be left alone.
Yeah.
And these kids keep coming to this camp, this lake, and won't leave him alone. So it gives perfect reason for him to actually be doing what he's doing, like killing these people, because it's one of those things like, look, if you guys would just go away, this will stop. I'm not going to go to Manhattan and try to, whatever. Just go away and leave me alone. And they won't do it. So
well, and I agree with you that with the Rob Zombie Halloween, they over-explained it. Part of the reason the original John Carpenter was so terrifying is that he was literally faceless. There's no explanation.
He was called the Shape for in the original script. That's all it was.
There's no explanation for this. It's just a wild terror out in the world, killing people.
It's like a force of nature more than anything.
Yeah, it's like a tornado.
So,
but in the I really like the Rob Zombies because they do go more into but they went too much into detail. They took some of the mythology away from Michael at that point. And I absolutely cannot stand the the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot.
I'd bother because
I watched it and I was like, this is
it's one of those things when they first announced that Jackie Earle Haley was going to play Freddy Krueger. I'm like, okay, I can get on board with this. And the first trailer that I saw for that, whenever that iconic where he's looking like when he comes through the bedroom wall, like he's in. And it was like, why did you do that in CGI? That's dumb looking.
Yeah.
Why did you not go practical? This was an easy thing to do practically.
Yeah.
And you didn't. And I was like, I'm not watching this. And then everything I heard after that was how terrible it was.
No, it was garbage. Yeah. I hated it. And, I was a Freddy fan. I liked the Nightmare on Elm Street. The second one sucked. Yeah. But, I liked them. This one was terrible.
Dream Warriors might actually be on this list of like better than the original.
You know what? I'm gonna make that one of my choices because Dream Warriors, the first one was good, but the third one is really where
Freddy became Freddy. Yeah. The first one is a straight up horror movie.
Yeah.
The third one is where Freddy becomes Freddy Krueger.
That's where you get his personality.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay.
Where he actually becomes terrifying.
Terminator 2.
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Terminator was a good movie. It bombed at the box office. It did not do it. It found its audience when it hit home video.
Yeah.
That was when it was like, oh, and then Schwarzenegger became a thing in the meantime since then. And so it was one of those things that when Cameron went back and said, hey, I want to do a sequel, and they gave him a big budget and all this kind of stuff, and then he went out and made a phenomenal movie.
Yes, he did. I'm sorry, that whole thing of him, walking into that bar naked, beating the crap out of those guys, taking the leathers and riding off on that.
I know.
On that Harley Davidson Fat Boy.
I know you've dreamt of doing that, haven't you?
No, I don't even. I want a bike. I'm not gonna lie. I want a bike, but I don't want the Fat Boy because of the solid rims and those things. Right. You catch a crosswind, and next thing you know, you find yourself in oncoming traffic.
Okay, well there you go. So,
yeah,
but that one's a good one. Of course, Aliens. I hesitated to put Aliens on here because Alien is a horror movie in space. Yeah. Aliens is an action flick.
Yeah,
and they're good, both great movies, but they're two different types of styles of movies, What I did put on here, because again, changes the style quite a bit, but really, really took the dynamic to where it needed to. I put Logan on here.
Oh no, you're absolutely correct.
Of course, we'd had the X-Men movies.
Yep.
1, 2, and 3, and then
we had the Wolverine movie,
and then we had terrible Wolverine or X-Men Origins Wolverine movie, and then the Wolverine came out, and it was a lot better. Like I actually enjoyed that movie.
I like
quite
that
a
one.
bit.
I'm still mad at the Wolverine Origins at screwing up the Deadpool.
They screwed up so much in that it's not even funny. But then Logan came out.
Now I'll admit I like the Gambit that's in that one.
Yeah,
I like Gambit in that one.
But when Logan hit. Almost 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they basically said, okay, we're going to do Wolverine right. We're going to make this
and we're going to do
violent.
Old Man Logan.
Kind of did yes and no. There were elements from Old Man Logan that they put in this, but it really was a perfect send-off for Hugh Jackman as that character, because it's one of those things, it's like, dude, I've lived way too long. I've seen way too much stuff. I want to be left alone, but it's obvious that I can't be.
Yeah.
And so this is where I make my stand. And it's such a good movie. It is such a good. It does go back to like it. It has that Sergio Leone, like the Man with No Name, feel to it. As well as. It really has a Western feel to it, like an Unforgiven or something. Maybe even like like the Wild Bunch or something, where it's this. We're taking all the we're taking all of the romance out of this.
You were more right about Unforgiven.
Yeah.
That's more along that line.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like we're going to take all the romance out of the superhero stuff.
Yeah,
and we're just going to show you the down and dirty. This is how it ends. This is, and that speech that he gives, where she's got the comic books.
Yeah,
and he's like, no, he's like, maybe a quarter of this happened, maybe. Yeah. But it wasn't like this. It was it was dirty. It was bad. People died. It was just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, that's Again, it's that old gunfighter at the end of his life.
What I love is when he falls asleep and the kids actually give him the haircut and the beard from the comic book. I love that. What did you? No, I can't believe.
Yeah, I know. It's a. I have one more on here.
Yeah, okay.
Another movie near and dear to my heart, and you might argue the Randy rule on this one.
Okay.
But I have The Dark Knight. Because Batman Begins...
No, I'm not going to argue you're absolutely correct.
Batman Begins was a great reboot of that series, especially after what we'd gone through with the Joel Schumacher movies in the 90s.
Okay, I know it's a trilogy. I know
it turned into a trilogy.
It turned into a trilogy.
Right.
But as somebody who grew up a Frank Miller...
But you can pull any of those movies and watch them individually.
Yeah, you
didn't have to see what Batman Begins to understand The Dark Knight.
Right.
Dark Knight Rises, you might need to see The Dark Knight to kind of, but it's still accessible enough.
But as somebody who grew up with Frank Miller Batman, that whole Frank, including The Dark Knight, Returns.
Oh, yeah.
For me, these three were the Batman movies we deserved.
Right. It's the ones we've been waiting for, honestly.
And honestly, when I went and saw the last one in the theater by myself, and when the credits rolled, I was like, perfect.
Mm-hmm. And it's also one of those with The Dark Knight Rises. Yeah. It's that, as you're seeing Robin, go into the Batcave, and then it just ends. Yeah. And it's like, no, one more scene. Yeah. We need to see him in the back. We need to see him in the suit, And it's like, but it's still one of those things where it's like, no, that was perfect. That was,
And I don't want to spoil it in case somebody...
The Dark Knight Rises has its issues.
It does.
There are some things that don't quite work in there.
Yeah.
But it's still one of those things where it works enough for my taste. The Dark Knight...
Yeah.
Me and one of my friends have had arguments about this movie for 12, almost 13 years now. Okay. He says that The Dark Knight is not a Batman movie, it's a Joker movie.
I cannot disagree with that.
The problem, though, is that the Joker's only in that movie for like 45 minutes of a 2.5-hour movie.
I can't disagree with that either.
So it's one of those things. Now, he's looming over top of everything.
I was going to say
the very beginning,
even in the scenes that he is not in,
right? He's looming.
Heath Ledger is in those scenes.
I know that the threat is real.
Yeah,
Heath Ledger's interpretation of the Joker,
is
it's both fascinating
and
haunting and scary as shit.
Yeah.
Because and it's that whole Alfred gives that speech. He's like, some men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah,
and that really and truly, that the whole with him, he says I'm an agent of chaos. I'm and you feel it, especially in that interrogation scene.
Yeah,
that interrogation scene is one of the best things that's been ever put to film.
This scene.
Yeah, that's right before that. I know because he knows something you don't know.
It was improvised.
I know.
That was totally improvised.
I know. But it's one of those things where he's just like, it's one of those things when the Joker knows something that you don't know.
Yeah.
We're all screwed,
What are you doing? You never start with the head.
I know. It's like, makes you all fuzzy, And then he hits him in the hand. He's like, yeah, that's better.
Yeah.
Which, lends to the, there's been some speculation that whoever the Joker was, he was a soldier.
Yeah.
That did
probably special ops.
Exactly, because in that scene he's talking about, again, you never start with the head.
Yeah.
You start with something that, like you work your way up to that. And several things that happen throughout, like he's using a rocket launcher, he's, and all this kind of stuff, and it's one of those things where it's like
he's using improvised munitions.
Right. But he has that speech, where he says, people die every day, it's like a soldier gets killed and nobody says anything about it,
Yeah.
Where it's one of those things where it's like, this is a dude that's seen some stuff, and he came back not all there.
Yeah.
And decided that he was an agent of chaos, and it's time.
Yeah.
I am just going to do what the world wants me to do.
Yeah.
In his head, type thing. And that is, I hate, for multiple reasons, it's losing Heath Ledger so young.
Yeah.
And not getting to see him play that role again.
Yeah.
Is just, and I don't want to, because it's one of those things, he left a young daughter,
Yep.
And all that kind of, friends and family and everything. That's the more important thing of losing him so young.
Yeah.
But it was also one of those things, you watch that movie and you're like, this guy had a lot in front of him.
Well, it's like losing him.
A lot in front of him.
It's like losing Philip Hoffman Seymour.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. Yeah.
Sorry, I messed it up.
It's easy to do. One of those three name people.
But there's been a rash of those
right
the last decade or so where they were really, they needed help. Somebody knew they needed help and should have got them some help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's my last one I have. It's one of those things, especially when you start getting into the superhero, especially you get over into the Marvel stuff, which we didn't even get into, because it's one of those things that, you could honestly say that, like, what was the last Avengers movie? Endgame was basically the sequel to like 25 other movies. It's kind of that's one of those things where it's I said that especially like when the first Avengers movie came out that movie is a sequel to 5 other movies. Yeah. Which it really is, but it's just one of these things where we just kept building this world bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Well, they didn't just do sequels. They went for an entire universe.
Exactly.
They built a universe and did an excellent job.
There are some of them like Captain America: Winter Soldier is better than the first Captain America. I mean that, and it's one of those things that it is a.
Well, you had to start somewhere,
right?
It's like the first Thor movie is literally just a.
The third one's the better one. Is the best of the 3 of them, though. I mean,
Ragnarok is awesome.
Is the best one of those.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to Love and Thunder.
We'll see. I'm not a big fan of the Jane Foster Thor, because that comes from the comic books.
Yeah, I know.
So, but it's more of I don't know. We'll have to see what they do, because the thing is Marvel many times, starting with the first Thor movie when that was coming out, I was like, all right, this is where they're going to screw it up. We're only three sequels in at this point, or 3 movies in at this point, and this is where they're going to screw it up. And then they got it right. Okay, and then but they're gonna screw up, Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, then they got it right. Yeah, and it was like,
they got both of those right. Right, and I'm looking forward to the third one, because they've got a James Gunn back.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that but I didn't want to get into that stuff, because you could go down such a rabbit hole of like, okay, which one's better than this, and this one's blah 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 blah, because superhero movies for the last 20 years
on the Marvel side have been good. I wish somebody would take the DC universe and do with it.
Well, we're supposed to be getting that Snyder cut of Justice League here pretty soon.
Well, they've already put out ads for it. And it's over on HBO Max.
I know.
But
now, unfortunately, we got a Wonder Woman 1984, which was terrible.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's bad. And that first movie was so good.
Oh, the first movie
was
that
first movie, and this is just terrible. I mean, terrible. And I hate to say it, because I love Gal Gadot, and and I like Chris Pine, and it just and the thing is, it's like Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal, it's like, okay, it's got the elements of what it needs here, and then it just fell apart, and it was just so bad.
See, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
So anyway, now that we've gone on for over an hour about stuff that we kind of knew about and kind of didn't. Tell us about what your favorite remakes of songs or movies or sequels or whatever it is. Maybe one of these days we'll do a song. We'll do a one about sequel songs, because there actually are a few of those out there. It might be a very short episode, but
it'd be like 3 songs long.
Actually, probably more than that. You start looking into it. There's quite a few of them, especially getting the Meatloaf stuff. So.
Yeah, but Jim Steinman is
a
fool for those.
So, but anyways,
so Brian, call us up and let us know how we screwed this episode up.
I'm sure we're gonna hear. I'm sure we're gonna hear from several people about, oh, you didn't mention this, you didn't mention that, or how dare you say this, you know. And
this was Brian's idea. Thanks for actually sending them in. By the way, you can actually send in ideas and make us do work for you. If you've got an idea for an episode, get a hold of us on Facebook or. Just do it on Facebook, because we're the social media
Instagram
world is really weird right now. And
so Facebook and Instagram are the two places to really find us, and we'll also have where you could email us, if you have anything you want, or you can of course you can message us through Facebook or Instagram. Either way.
So what's that email?
projectgenxpod@gmail.com. All of our links will be in the description. Before we get out of here, I want to give a couple of shout outs.
Well, you can also reach me at bigdavexpod@gmail.com.
There you go.
So what are the shout outs?
A couple of shout outs. One, and they're both Gen X related. One of them is the GenXGrownUp podcast.
Yes.
They're out of Florida. Those guys are really cool.
And they've got a great show.
They do have a great show. They do some of what we do, but they kind of alternate. Like one week they'll do a focus show on like one topic. Yeah. And the next week they'll kind of do like their recommends. And they do a lot of tech stuff.
Oh, they do a lot of tech stuff.
And it's really cool.
Those are actually the episodes that I get more into.
Really?
And
I listen to all of them. So
I've got to go back and listen to them, because they talk about one company where they're having their gaming PCs built.
Yes.
And I'm in the. I need a new laptop for my video editing and audio editing.
So you're going to go back. Yeah. And the other one is the Untitled GenX podcast.
Yeah.
Which
hi, ladies.
Yes. Thank you so much for. We've been kind of conversing with them through Facebook a little bit, but we definitely gave them a shout out, because they talked about the Joshua Tree by U2, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. But they do all kinds of cool. They did episodes on Heathers, and they did one about Cyndi Lauper, about She's So Unusual. Yep. They did they did the first Skid Row album.
Yes,
they talked about
that one. Yeah,
so it's that is I really enjoy listening to them. So go and listen to them as well, and give them some get some support out there as well. And so anyways, I'll put links to all that stuff in the show notes. And everybody. Let's support each other. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
We gotta circle the wagons against the Zennials, because evidently they're trying to come after us. But
if you go to the Untitled Gen X their Facebook page, there was this great TikTok about questions to ask Gen Xers. That is one I showed it to Dave earlier, and we were just both sitting there going, "Oh man, these stupid millennials."
It was like, "Oh, they're coming after us." Whatever,
exactly. Guys, thank you so much. I'm Alan Smith.
I'm the other guy, Big Dave.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.